Hey everybody, Coach Ed here. I'm over here in the shop at Bella Italia Marble, Granite, and Quartz, picking up my order for a nice little bathroom I'm doing. I've been a contractor almost as long as I'm a hockey coach. So listen to me when I tell you, when you want the quality work and craftsmanship, I'm going to see the boys over at Bella. They serve all 5 boroughs, Westchester, Long Island, all the way out to Montauk. Whether you're a Ranger fan, Islander fan, Devils fan, they're going to take care of you no matter what. Make sure you give them a call, 516-561-1018. Let's go, Rangers. All right, boys, bring it in.
That's
You know what my favorite part of that commercial, I think, is when he looks back at the phone number, just to make sure he gets it right. But on this note, we have a special guest tuning in from Fatherhood.
Oh, Coach on.
So we were just going to bring up a couple small topics for Coach's Corner. First was, as a coach, or as I guess speaking for Sullivan, how much input do you think he should have, or how much input would you like to have as a coach during free agency and trades for the offseason?
I mean, I've talked about in the past, I think we had this discussion when they were hiring him. I think that it needs to be a team effort. I think that might be one of the reasons why Drury's wanted to go after Sullivan. They obviously have a little bit of a history, and I think that they're going to be on the same page. And I think he's going to take Sullivan's input a lot because he dealt with a lot of different players and obviously superstars and those third, fourth lines. Not that Laviolette didn't, but Sullivan, I think, had a little bit more success. I think it needs to work together for sure. I mean, I would want to be on the same team, the same page as the GM. I wouldn't want to have full control like Mike Keenan did. But because I don't think there's enough to be able to do both. Like, personally, I think Cousin Eddie was just saying the time you have to dedicate to this, it's hard to do both, especially with salary cap and whatnot. You need to have the right guys in the right spots in the organization. But I think there should be definite input on what kind of players I'm looking for my system. And I think that Sullivan, being a coach with a lot of these players internationally, feel for certain players and their attitudes and their demeanor. So I think Drury would be smart to listen to him saying, we need to go after so-and-so. He's got what we need in this position. We need a third line left wing. This guy has the right attitude for it. He's going to do what we ask and so on. So I would want that kind of input if I know more about a player or the players in the league than the GM. On ice level, I'm saying, not just on the stats and in the books.
Gotcha. Do you think he's going to push for any of his ex-players to help them teach the system?
I mean, that's possible. I mean, Mike Keenan did it in '94. Obviously, they made a lot of moves. He went after certain players he was comfortable with. Same thing. Like obviously anybody who listens knows I love Herb Brooks and that whole way he won. He went after certain players. He knew he went after some of his guys. He wanted them. He knew he could count on them. So yeah, there may be a couple of guys that he goes after if they're available, that he has confidence in. Any sport, any coach is going to want to do that. They have their favorites. Whether he does will remain to be seen, but
yeah, Coach, you think we're going to get Crosby?
I was just thinking the same thing.
That's not the question. That's not the question for me.
No way.
I mean, me personally, I would love to have him for 2 years. But if I'm a Pittsburgh fan and I'm a hockey fan, I want him to retire Mario Lemieux-esque as a Penguin. And that's it. That's the way it should be.
They can enjoy rebuilding.
He wasn't like Lindros to me. Lindros to me from the get-go in his career, he didn't want to sign with Quebec. It was controversial from that. He wasn't that loyalty kind of guy. I would be very surprised if Crosby leaves. Nothing, obviously it's not impossible. Gretzky left Edmonton, but that was a financial situation mostly.
If he leaves, I
would be very surprised if Crosby didn't finish his career as a Penguin.
The only other thing we wanted to cover for Coach's Corner, there was Mika's wife posting on Instagram, and there was some rumors flying if he would be willing to move his move clause, that Sullivan flew to Sweden to meet with them. So, what if you were doing that? What would you be telling him or covering?
Well, wait, the wife said that I didn't see all this.
Yeah, so there was a
This
few
must have
weeks
been in your
ago.
152. This must have been in your 152 text messages.
So during when Kreider got traded, there was a lot of speculation that now Kreider was gone, that maybe Mika be more amenable to moving his new move clause and going somewhere. And then she posted on Instagram, Mika's wife, that she laughs that there's all these rumors that have no substance, and they just bought a house in New York, they're not going anywhere, and that Sullivan just came to visit them in Sweden.
Well, if I'm Sullivan and I want him on my team, I'm flying to Sweden for a nice vacation, and I'm going to talk to them and let him know that what his plans are with him, and that they need him to come have a, let's say, a quote unquote comeback season. How I plan on using you, and so on and so forth. And obviously making that clear. We're already, if that happened like that, we're already seeing the difference in Sullivan and other coaches, where he didn't wait for Mika to come back to New York to have this meeting. He didn't do it on the phone. He went there, and the communication was open in person. And obviously, he wanted to tell him face to face, shake his hand, and make it known. So if anything, how could we say that's not a positive sign right now? And I think that's a great move.
Yeah, Mika's going to be here, right? They gotta make this work. You got to be back to at least somewhat of how he is.
I mean, if Sullivan doesn't go do that, and there's a lot of question marks in Mika's mind, and now he goes into the preseason or training camp not knowing, but now he knows. His summer's set. He knows what he's in for. Maybe Sullivan said, look, I'm going to need you to step it up a little bit, put a few pounds, whatever the case is. He let him know clearly what his plan is for him. And that's, as a player in your career, I mean, anybody at any job wants that. What's my plan? If you're held in the dark, and then you feel like you're insignificant, your attitude going to work every day isn't the same. There's that cloud. Like, is this going to happen? Now he knows what Sullivan wants. He came halfway around the world to talk to me, or a quarter way around the world, whatever. And and it's got to make him feel better going into the preseason.
Cool. Any other questions for Coach before we move on to the draft stuff?
No,
Just echo on what he said about Mika. Mika was playing well towards the end of the season when it came to pairing up with JT and taking that wing spot. And I don't know if you guys watched him in international play. He looked great. So you pair that, you put that all together with the coach going to put confidence. The coach went to Sweden to talk to him, giving him that kind of confidence. Hopefully he comes back, and that's another guy that we need to play. I think that, and I think he will.
And we have a question in the chat, Van Vitale, for everyone. Do we think Mika plays right wing or center? And they pitching for Rossi. That was me last episode. I think he would be a great young center they need to have in there, especially if he's playing right wing. So I'm up for that. But yeah, what do you guys think? Right wing or center?
I think his days at center are over, or at least if I was the coach. If they have the personnel to replace him, or if they're going to go after someone like Rossi, then I think he performed pretty well next to Miller, and I think he needs someone like Miller to push him. Kreider obviously wasn't that guy. I mean, that's another thing. Like, if he was such good friends with Kreider, how come Kreider didn't push him to be a better person, or why did they push each other? So hopefully Miller could be that guy. I think he will be. And I think we started to see that old Mika a little bit towards the end of the season.
Him playing wing opens up a whole nother dimension also, because now he doesn't have to be down low on defense.
Right.
You got a guy like JT Miller that's great at finding seam passes. Mika could be busting it, getting a lot more 2-on-1s or even breakaways. It opens up a whole nother dimension with his speed and his ability. So, that might have been what Sullivan discussed with him also. My plan is to keep you on the wing, or my plan is I want you second line center, JT's first line, or whatever the case is. I'm gonna guess and speculate that Sullivan made it relatively clear that this is what we need you to do. This is our plan for you. What's your opinion? What's your ideas? What do you want? And he's going to make a decision based on that. Again, the lines of communication are open. I don't think we've seen that from Ranger coaches in the last 6 to 8 years that I can remember. You guys remember any of that?
I think it depends whether he plays center or wing based on who they acquire, right? I mean,
that too.
If the Rangers go and get a Peterka, maybe Mika's a center in that lineup. If they go and get a Rossi, maybe he's a wing. But showing last year that he could play wing and he's flexible, he could play center or wing, gives the lineup more depth, I think. And I worry about putting him on the wing, and that third line looks pretty ugly. If it's all rookies and Parson in, that's a risk. That's a risky way to start the year. Whereas if you put Mika at center, you spread out the wings through the top three lines, maybe with some rookies sprinkled in, looks a little deeper. So I think it's just going to depend on who Drury gets, and I think Sullivan's probably open to both. It would be at this point at least.
Mark?
PJ, what did we see? What did you send me the other day on social media with Parsnips?
He was working out. I said to you, man, he listened to you last episode. Post that workout video.
Was he doing Pilates?
No, he was not doing Pilates. He was on the squat machine. So
is that what he was on? I couldn't tell.
It was not a squat machine, whatever the sled thing. But
Mark, that's because you're used to doing hot yoga.
A contract.
Hey, listen, hot yoga would be great for hockey. Very
the hardest workout I've ever done. Not even close.
I can't do it with that heat. No way.
They gave Parsnip they gave him a contract, right? He's gonna get a crack at that 3C, I think. Yeah.
Another young hungry guy looking for a big contract, man. They're gonna all be working hard fighting for those spots.
Another guy that came back from injury at the end of the year, right? He was out a little bit, and then he played well the last couple games of the season too. So.
I hope you're right. I'm skeptical. Like 3 teams healthy scratched that guy last year, including a smart team in Colorado. So I'm skeptical. I hope you're right, but
I don't love the idea of starting the year with him penciled in as the 3C without really any depth at center behind him other than Sam Carrick. I think I would love for him to develop into that. I think he could. I like him. I think he's a big young body, and he's got some good attributes. But I wouldn't want to pencil him in there with no depth behind him. So.
Well, at the start of last season, who was penciled in at 3C?
Last season, Nick Bonino, was it?
No, Filipino.
No, Trocheck actually. Heedle was second line with Panera.
Even worse, PJ. So let's take Coach Ed off the big screen before he has an aneurysm.
Filipino is a little more of a proven player than
before I go chug a bottle of Jack Daniels.